we're tracking these cows every single minute of their days. And I think that's pretty special when it comes to, and I'm a vet so I do care, animal welfare and animal well-being.
So I Heard, a podcast for cattle vets, students and anyone interested in the dairy and beef industries. It's been brought to you by the Australian Cattle Vets, a special interest group of the Australian Veterinary Association. I'm agricultural journalist Prue Adams. Where to start with wearables? Well, speaking with Krispin Kannan is probably a good place to begin. A dairy cattle vet in New Zealand and a self-confessed data nerd, he's become something of an expert in livestock wearable and sensor-based technology. Almost a third of the dairy herd across the ditch are sporting collars and other wearables. But as Krispin says, it's how the data is used to inform better decisions that's the most exciting part for farmers and vets. Hello, Krispin. I know you were a little nervous about doing this, but you are actually a brilliant communicator. I've seen your Insta site. So you're obviously pretty passionate about what you do.
Very much so. Always wanted to be a vet, still love being a vet, love being a clinical vet, and have a passion for the veterinary industry, like outrageously, and our farmers, of course.
So you always wanted to be a dairy cattle vet?
I've always wanted to be a vet ever since I can remember, which is one of those childhood weird dreams. And then I've always wanted to work outdoors. And so those two passions combined pretty well as I got towards the end of vet school and got my first job in practice and large animal practice. And then from there, the area I was in was so dairy, you couldn't be more dairy. And so fell on my feet being a dairy vet. Never looked back since then, actually.
You call yourself a tech nerd as well. Is that right?
Very, very much so. A data nerd, probably.
Data nerd. Okay, more a data nerd than a tech nerd. So where does that come into it? Was that always going to be a part of how you were going to treat veterinary?
I've always been interested in the next best thing, the next thing coming down the pipeline, the next thing to pique my interest, to fascinate my journey as a veterinarian. And I think as time has gone on, like over the last 16 years of being a vet, believe it or not, I've always looked out for what the next thing is that's happening in the agri-industry. Probably about 5 years ago now, I think. 5 to 8 years ago, the uptake of wearable technology or agri-tech in New Zealand was starting to skyrocket. Our farmers that I supported were picking it up. And so when I saw these things turn up on farm, around the neck and in the ear, or within cows actually, I was trying to figure out, well, how can we as veterinarians use this data to support animal health, well-being, productivity, farm efficiency and all of that, and then just started down an outrageous rabbit hole, to be perfectly honest, in that. So I think it came out of that. I didn't finish uni going, oh, well, I think data is going to be where I want to go. Fell into it because of what our producers were picking up.
And so what are your producers picking up? Like, step me through, what are the wearables? What are we talking about?
When we talk about, I guess, cow wearables, what we're talking about is devices that sit around the neck within cows or on the ear, and what they monitor is cow behaviour, turn them into insights for heat and health and other things. So that's one part of it. But then when I also go broader than that about agri-tech, our farmers are picking up things like pasture measurement stuff that happens through GPSs, through, I don't know, all the fancy tech stuff like space versus drones and all of that, and how quick pasture grows. Then on top of that, other agri-tech that we see coming out is like mastitis detection, aids on farm, all of those kind of things end up falling into this agri-tech bucket.
How does that relationship work with the farmer? Do you advise them to use certain devices, or are they just picking it up?
The wearables or the agri-tech are being sold to farmers. Then the farmers are picking it up and using it for what their initial uses are, number one. And then number two, once they start using it on farm, there's broader and wider uses for them that then can pull in like different farm consultants or farm veterinarians and all of that. And so then we pick up these perspectives and start supporting them and maximizing it on farm is probably the best way to go. So there's that aspect of it, but then the other side of it as well is like these agri-tech companies are also partnering with veterinarians or farm advisors to look at the data and go, well, what more can we get out of it to support the farmers to benefit the animals at the end of the day? So great little collaborative approach, to be honest, would be the best way to put it.
Are you finding that as time goes on that first of all, that you are getting a better cross-section of farmers and more people who are actually doing this, and also that you are becoming more proficient even at what the data means?
Over the last couple of years, I'd say in the New Zealand dairy industry, I think the uptake of cow wearables is nearing 30% of the national herd. There's a lot of cows that have wearables on.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and so because of that, that's a vast number within our client base that has it. So the more animals that have it, the more data you have, the more trends you can see, and the more insights that you end up gaining. So yeah, I'd say as it becomes more evident on farm, we end up being able to read the data a little bit better, and we start seeing more trends in it. And as more people get on board, it becomes cooler. And so because it gets cooler, we get to learn more about it.
What are you largely tracking?
The biggest thing that these wearables are tracking end up being different cow behaviours. So rumination rate or rumination time, eating time, activity, whether it's high active or not. And those signals get converted into heat alerts and also health alerts. So any deviation in these behaviours get translated into heat or health alerts. However, there are other wearables that end up doing drinking time, pH measures, air temperature. So it just goes on and on and on. Each wearable has a different set of algorithms and different expressions of it, but when you boil it down to it, it's going heat or health are the two different ones. But then I'd also kind of add into it, you've also now got wearables that have those, but then give virtual fencing, virtual guidance, bring that into the product, and then bring pasture measurements, pasture growth, pasture allocation into the product as well. So you've got this really broad space when I talk about cow wearables.
To what extent does it allow you to, I guess, diagnose earlier and then be able to track the solution to that diagnosis better?
The best way I've found to kind of discuss this in my way is to say what it does is provides you another data point that you've never been able to see, feel, bleed cows for, test for. So it turns something that's unseen into something that's seen that then you add into your diagnostic process. So it becomes a part of a sick animal examination, or it becomes part of a data set when you're reviewing reproduction or production differences that happen on farm.
Do you find that it's another kind of tool in the kit?
It adds a level of objectivity to the subjective nature of what we see, I think is probably the best way to kind of describe it. So you'd say, hey, I know a lot of my cows are cycling. I feel like a lot of my cows are cycling. And I say, that's really, really cool. If I look at your wearables, you're right. 90% of your cows are cycling. And of those 90%, the vast majority of your mixed age cows. But the ones that aren't cycling are your heifers. So you create this specificity around what you're reading in the data. Even though the farm is very, very close, it just adds another level of granularity to the data, which is what in this day and age I think we need when we're trying to drive efficiency on farm. The numbers do matter.
Absolutely. And does it open up more conversations with the farmers themselves, do you find? Because you've actually got a reference point.
I think the way it opens up more conversations with farmers is that I find the farmers who are picking up wearable technology are actually really, really excited about it. They're picking it up because they see something valuable in it and they're excited to get into it. And so because of their excitement in that space and their passion in that space, it drives you to be more passionate about it, and then they engage with you about something that is new and cool that they want to get more out of it. And so I think the number one thing that actually drives that engagement is because they are excited about it. It's their new toy, and it's their new toy that's going to take them into the future. And they want you to be a part of it, and I want to be a part of it as their on-farm veterinarian.
And what wearables are you excited by? Is there anything in particular that you go, yeah, that's my favourite little bit of tech?
You're going to love this though. I think any wearable or data device or agri-tech that our farmers pick up, I'm going to be into.
Good answer.
It sounds like I'm skirting around your question, but it's absolutely true because there's going to be something else coming down the line that they're into, the one that they've got there into. And so my job is just to make a massive use of that. And at the end of the day, I'm a veterinarian and I'm a farm veterinarian. And so systems thinking, animal health, welfare, productivity, efficiency, and production are just core competencies in what we're trying to support our farmers on, like to do.
Is there anything that gives you such a quantifiable amount more information and data than you would have had compared to being a veterinarian that's just going into a herd and diagnosing in sort of more old school ways?
If I take a step back as a dairy vet, the milk docket gives you a good indicator on the nutrition status of what's happening in your herd. When production's going up or stable, the milk composition of proteins and fats and lactose, reading the tea leaves gives you a good idea, right? Then you can step on farm and look at the cow and the amount of chews that she does, what her dung looks like, what her condition looks like, and all of those give you clues, right? Then I go, well, a herd eye camera, for example, that measures body condition score and measures locomotion score, gives you another data set of quantifiable data. Then the cow level tests that give you the somatic cell count from every quarter give you another little level of data. And then you go, well, if someone gets an infrared camera and then you can ping it at some pasture and it tells you what the dry matter and the soluble sugars are, gives you another set of data. So you bring all those pieces together and all of a sudden you have a holistic full picture about what things are going well, what things might be taking a turn, or what things need changing ASAP. So long-winded way of saying, I think each data point matters and it's helping us build a more holistic, granular picture at a cow level. So it's taking a herd level issue or herd level views right down to a cow level impact.
That's interesting because a lot of veterinary is going in the other direction in terms of becoming more herd health rather than individual cow. But I can see what you're saying here, that this is actually flipping that a bit.
Don't get me wrong, like herd level stuff matters, but then when you have herd level things, it hides all matter of sin. And so then the moment you can pull it into and divide it up into age groups, cow level, mob level, you start seeing the things that you can tweak to create efficiency. And I think that's where you go. Herd level is brilliant, tick that box. But then if you're looking for efficiency, guess where you've got to start looking? Because each little animal or each little cow matters, and which ones are passengers and which ones are doing the heavy lifting for you. So then all of a sudden you're trying to find the heavy lifting cows, create a herd of heavy lifting cows, and decide why the underperformers or passengers are actually passengers. Is it because of the system they're in, or is it the mere fact of them just being passengers?
So are you getting notifications, or is the farmer getting notifications like consistently? Are there?
Oh my word, that's another absolute rabbit hole. So yes, notification fatigue, notification overload, what data actually matters versus what doesn't matter. All of those are questions that I think our industry, our farmers, the rural professionals who are helping farmers in this data space are learning to try and figure out. And, today's talk that I did, there was actually a section on sick animal behavioural alerts. They just happen, right? Because it's an algorithm and it's a finely tuned algorithm. But now it's something that farmers have never had to deal with before. So then how do we support them to go, actually, when should you pull the trigger on doing something? What does that alert mean? Understand that alert and then create your own brain algorithm to then execute on it. So yes, there is a lot of alerts. But then we've got to weigh up which alert is important and which matters.
I guess following on from that, if there are a lot of alerts in one herd for different animals, does that then trigger some kind of alarm for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'm a very trusting person. I believe what's written on the tin and I say an alert is an alert. So now my brain goes, why are they alerting? Is it a management related thing that's causing them to alert? Or is there actually something a little bit deeper and more sinister for those alerts? Because the algorithm says these animals are deviating from their natural behaviour and the natural behaviour of the herd over the past couple of days. So they are correct in saying that that animal is deviating or that herd has deviated. So now our job is to go, why? And is that important for me to react? So it's a different way of thinking about it rather than being like, stuff those alerts, get rid of them. I go, well, the alerts say something, so let's try and interpret it and understand why they've alerted, and now should we care about it?
As a data nerd, have you been able to track what a difference this makes overall to the profitability of a particular dairy farm that might be using all the different wearables, or some wearables at least? Have you been able to track that and see whether there is a quantifiable difference?
The wearables and the data in itself don't generate the return on investment, and just I'm real conscious of how I kind of say this, unless you are choosing to action the insights and the data that is surfaced from them and choose to do something different about it. Then they return 10-fold, 20-fold, whatever you want to say. They return something for it. Probably the best analogy I can come up with, it's like your iWatch that tells you you have not done 10,000 steps today. So you decide whether you're going to do more than 10,000 today to make sure your heart rate goes up so that you stay fit and healthy. But at the end of the day, it's telling you that you have not moved off your chair in the last 4 hours. Now that ROI is going to be nothing in your health unless you choose to realize that actually me sitting here for 4 hours and not doing anything is going to be bad, so I better get off now and go and do some stuff. So I bring that back to, if you think about the data, think about the wearables, it's the moment we choose to action something, change the way we do farming, change the way we think about our cows and our systems, and make a meaningful change to what we're seeing in the data.
Have you got any cracker case studies?
I'll be a vet for a second and just talk like a vet. If you think about a case study, I'd go at an individual animal level, what I'm most fascinated about is these wearables showing you that something's about to happen before it happens. There's a change in behavior. So my approach to cows or sick animal health has really changed, because I'm like, the wearable is showing me something. I can't physically see anything. I'll do the heart rate, do my clinical exam, still can't. I'll do a blood sample and there it is. Inflammation or infection or ketosis, right? Even if I don't do a blood sample, I can look at that cow's history in the last year, in the last 30 days, in the last 7 days, and say she has actually changed her behavior, so something must be going on because they're creatures of habit, right? So what should we do? Let's do some TLC. Let's do something a bit different, or actually just watch her for the next week, see if she picks up or not, or whether this is just her having a bad day. Number one. Then the number two thing is, if I as a veterinarian choose to do something with that cow, if I choose to treat her lameness, if I choose to do a C-section and stitch her up, if I choose to do some kind of intervention, some kind of treatment, in the past I'd just rely on the farmer saying, she's out of withhold, she's gone back in the mob. She looks better. I think she's drinking more and eating more. I think she's on the mend. But now I ask them to look at what they're doing in the wearables and saying, is she getting back to what she was before? And how long is she taking to get back? So if she's not better in 3 days, she just has to look at the wearable and go, well, in 3 days, her rumination, grazing, her activity hasn't even improved. So should we do another round? Or I've done a C-section, she's going back downhill. So that's my kind of case study from a clinical perspective when you're looking at a case in front of you, but also looking forward and how my treatment choices have gone. And it's a bit scary when you do a lame cow and you're like, well, she's still pretty lame 2 weeks out. I need to come back and see and do something a bit different. Probably my other example probably ends up being more in the herd health space, where it's not really a case study, but I think what I can speak to is saying that it's allowing me as a veterinarian to connect more with farmers objectively. And when we think about it, reproduction is a really big part of being a dairy veterinarian. So we start engaging with them about cycling rates before mating starts, not just putting in non-cyclic cow treatments, which we used to say once it started. We're starting to look at cycling rates 30 days out, 42 days out. We're starting to look at when a cow has her first heat after calving. And so then these conversations end up becoming all year round because of the data that's in front of us, because it's being surfaced and it's in their faces.
Interesting. So is that fundamentally changing the relationship that you as a vet has with the farmer?
Absolutely. It actually is. And it's quite neat. And I'd say Wearables is not only probably changing the relationship that vets have with their farmers, but I think it's also changing how farmers are farming now. It's challenging the way they have farmed and surfacing opportunities for them to intervene, tweak things earlier, and not just rely on what that result is going to be and suddenly that's a surprise. We're tracking these cows every single minute of their days. And I think that's pretty special when it comes to, and I'm a vet so I do care, animal welfare and animal well-being. And I still believe we can have this fight all the time. The thing I like is that if animal welfare and animal well-being is maintained, they're going to produce more and they're going to reproduce really, really well. So it depends whether we're talking chicken and the egg, but that's what I like most. A happy, healthy cow is going to calve, cycle early, have heaps of cycles and get in calf and produce for us.
Things move so fast these days when it comes to technology, information, use of information, but of course AI, in terms of using, that's the artificial intelligence, not artificial insemination I'm talking about here. How do you as a vet keep up with all of that? And to what degree is that a challenge, particularly in a space which is very high-tech data-driven?
The way I kind of take the scariness out of new tech coming down the road is that I still come back to it saying that what we already know about happy, healthy, well-fed cows still rings true. What we need to do is think about the data and go, how can we use this data to create more objectivity around what we're already telling farmers and what farmers already know and what we've seen from research. I guess a classic example of this would be, let's just talk about locomotion cameras that are picking up lame cows. Let's just talk about condition scoring cameras that are picking up condition on a cow. We know that a cow that gets lame is more likely to produce less milk, be culled earlier, and not get in calf. We know that as a fact. There's outrageous amount of studies on that. We also know that with condition score, cows that lose condition after calving are more likely to produce less milk and not get in calf. However, the objectivity of that has been what has a little bit been missing. So a locomotion score camera like Herd Eye now tells us that a locomotion score of 1.25, don't have to worry about these numbers, but 1.25 means that she's getting lame or is lame, right? So then we've got to see that number go, she's 1.25, she's been 1.25 and she's now at 1.3 on a scale of 3, that is. So she's going up that scale. The likelihood that it's going to impact XYZ, we already know. So now how do we practically manage that on farm? And it's the same with the condition scoring camera. This cow has now dropped from a 4 to a 3.8. Is that significant? Yep, the body of data is going to build up over time and say that is significant. So now as a veterinarian working with a farmer or producer goes, well, how do we take that and turn it into measurable outcomes and how can we turn it into action?
And what's around the corner, do you think? Is that just too frightening to think about?
No, it's not. It's exciting to think about. What I've realized now is I feel like anything's possible. So I just dream about anything that is actually possible. And I think that's what's exciting. Like, what if I just told you that I just found out the other day that they can fly a drone over paddocks of cows. That drone then looks at each cow and then can start to accurately measure its weight and then its condition. And that's just a drone flying over, getting a 3D image and saying, hey, that cow weighs that much. That cow has that much condition. And you think about that and you're like, I don't even know how that works. But they're making it work and it's in the testing phase. And within my lifetime, that's going to happen.
Amazing.
So to answer your question, I'm outrageously excited about what's around the corner. I don't know what's around the corner, but anything I think of, I'm like, surely that's possible. Surely they can do it. And then I just have to wait till something like that turns up.
Great spot to end. Thank you, Krispin.
You're welcome.
This has been So I Heard, a podcast commissioned by the Australian Cattle Vets, a special interest group of the Australian Veterinary Association. Background briefings by Ian McDonald. Editing and post-production by Drew Radford at Pod Talk. Music by Stuart Day. I'm Prue Adams. Thanks for listening.